Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and we have a great interview today. We have a very funny comedian, and he's been in movies, he's been in TV shows. Most recently, you can see him in America's Got Talent. I don't know why I can't speak today. On NBC, and he's one of my favorite comedians, Howie Mandel. Howie,
Well, you're one of my favorite guys.
thanks.
Now, you introduced me saying we have a great interview. The interview hasn't even begun. How can you judge this interview or, tease this interview as being great
I
without it
am
even?
Howie. I'm Ross the
Ross is
Boss.
clairvoyant.
I'm Ross the Boss, and I can predict stuff. I'm great with betting. I'm great with horses. I'm great with sports betting. I can
Oh,
predict.
betting. I thought you meant like betting, like
No, I'm great. I'm one of the best.
sheets
So,
and duvets.
Howie, quick question. Pandemic going on. I always think about you. I mean,
There
how
is?
I always think about you just because I know you're germophobic. I've known you for many years. How are you handling this whole situation?
Not good. Not good. But you know what? If you want to look at the bright sides, my therapist, my personal therapist, I think I've moved into a whole new tax bracket. I have upped my meds. There was something people think that I would be more comfortable in this because I am kind of a renowned germaphobe who refused to shake hands. But I have this panic in me, and I have I have OCD, and that's just a small part of it is the germophobia. But what was comforting was when I was having these moments, it was nice to say, this is my nightmare, and talk to people like you or anybody out there in the public. Go, Howie, don't worry about it. Really, I'm not sick. Don't worry about it. It's your mind. Ease, breathe through this. And then it was okay. What's really hard right now is this nightmare that I created in my own mind and in my own head. I can't wake up from it because you're all in it with me. And there's that old saying of misery loves company. I'm not enjoying it. I really would. It was easier alone. It really was.
Do you have a feeling that people finally get what it's like to be OCD from this though? Because I tweeted about that. I thought, and I am a little OCD myself.
Well,
Actually, more
here's
than a
what I
little
have to
OCD.
say to
So we
that.
should
I
talk.
don't know that there's such a thing as a little OCD or people know it, because the actual thing about OCD, if we want to talk about mental health, the real thing about OCD and my germophobia is, in the regular world before pre-pandemic, if somebody shook my hand, and I'm talking about years, I haven't shaken hands in years, but if I got triggered, if you shook my hand, your hand was all sweaty, just like anybody else who says they're a little bit OCD, you'd go, oh, ooh, get me to a sink, I got to go wash my hand. So I would
No, I know.
No, but wait, I would go wash my hand, and OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. I'd walk away and I'd go, I didn't get anything, and I didn't get everything, and I'd go back to the sink and I'd wash my hand again. And then I would go back to the sink and I'd scald my hand. And then I go, it's more like a skipping record, even though intellectually I knew that it was clean and I wouldn't get sick intellectually. I couldn't control myself, and I would get caught in this loop and miss appointments, miss family events, it would stop my life. So that's the difference between somebody who's a bit of a
that's
germaphobe.
true. No, that's true. OCD. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Howie,
I've been diagnosed, so I'm a mess.
you're a mess, but you handle it pretty well. You've done pretty well for yourself. Howie, as you know, we're a sports show. I want to ask you a couple sports questions from your past. In high school, I read that you were a wrestler, one of the best wrestlers to ever come out of Canada.
No, you didn't read that.
I didn't read. I made that up. Whilst the
I
boss
wanted sports. I wanted to meet.
He wrote it. He wrote it down and then read it.
Well, sports. I like sports. I watch sports. And as a high school kid, I was 4'10", 89 pounds, and I liked girls. Girls did not like me. I figured my entree into girls was sports. As I started this story, I was 4'10" and 89 pounds. I don't know what sport. Horse racing wasn't big. There wasn't like a jockey team. There wasn't a horse racing team. There wasn't a football. I actually tried out for football. It was ridiculous. I just looked like a little triangle with the shoulder pads. There was no reason for me to be on a football team. So I said, I got to get in this sport. The only sport that would have me was wrestling, because that was a weight class. And I wrestled in the this was to meet girls. I wrestled in the under 90-pound weight class. And I thought, if I get a uniform and girls know I'm on a team, I'm going to get it. The uniform for wrestling, I don't think things through, was a onesie. It was like a girl's one-piece bathing suit with knee pads, no less. And I had this stupid headgear. It was not, And this was to meet girls. And now this germaphobe in a girl's bathing suit is rolling around with other sweaty men on the floor. I don't know if this was a sport. I don't know if it was something I should have. And
hilarious.
here's the other thing. My mom ended up showing up at school. I ate a little. I must have eaten something. I went to 92 pounds, and the coach was mad at me, and they wrapped me in plastic, and they made me run. I had to run the weight off. I had to get under 90 pounds. To stay under 90 pounds and run, I would be like lightheaded and dizzy. I'd pass out before every fight.
So what was your record? Did you actually compete? Did you wrestle anybody?
I did compete. There's no record. I broke my nose twice. Is that a record?
Oh.
And by somebody
not
sitting
that
on the
big.
back of my head. I'm not a renowned wrestler. I'm just,
Okay, I thought
regaling-
you were the pride of Canada when it comes to wrestling. The one thing I'm impressed that you did get to touch and get to hold is the Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup, and our house is a big hockey house also. And
What's your team?
we're Duck. We like the Ducks. We like the Kings. My son likes the Avalanche. He played throughout juniors.
I'm Canadian, so it's hockey is kind of mandatory, and it really is. What my favorite time of living in LA was when the Oilers gave Gretzky to the Kings. And I went to the games. The first time I saw the Kings game, the Forum was it the Forum where they played first?
It was at the Forum. I was there too. Yes.
Yeah, I was there. So it was packed, right? But hockey in LA was not a big thing. And what was really funny for me, as a Canadian coming from Toronto, I went to the hockey game. Gretzky, we're going to see the greatest, and I'm sitting in the crowd. And what was funny is every move or every announcement, there was you can literally hear the like icing. They would call icing, and then you'd hear 5,000 people go, "What is icing? What is icing?" And
What is ice?
Yes, but it was funny to see that they were all showing up for the glitz and glamour of having Gretzky, of having the greatest of all time in that sport in our city. Playing that sport, it became the hot thing, and it was sold out, and it was to the rafters. I would say, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, 40% of that audience, of that crowd, did not understand the game, or had never been to a hockey game, or had never seen hockey before, even on television. So there was this constant.
That's America for you.
Yeah, it was like a first date when you go out with somebody who doesn't know. You want to watch it Sunday and you want to watch football, and then you're explaining, and it was like this annoying repartee of, well, it's the third down. They get 4 chances, and then there was a whole forum of everybody explaining the rules of hockey to whoever they happen to be sitting beside.
Now, are you mentioned football? Do you watch football? Are you a fan of American football, or you are? So
yes, and Canadian too. Have you ever watched? When I was in Toronto,
I've watched the Grey Cup every year. I haven't missed it in 20 years, actually.
Are you serious? I watched.
Yeah, I watched. I predicted the Winnipeg Blue Bombers last season. Last time they played, they won the Grey Cup. I took them over Hamilton.
Your friend won a Grey Cup.
We actually had an athlete we had an athlete on our show a few weeks ago that won a Grey Cup with
champion.
Montreal.
Who's that?
It was Rick Cunningham. He was an offensive tackle. He played for Montreal. 6'9", 300.
So I'm from the Toronto, and we had the Argonauts. And when I was living in Toronto, you know who was on the team? Well, Joe Theismann was our quarterback,
right?
And Lou Ferrigno was on the line.
Oh, he was?
Lou Ferrigno?
Yeah, Lou Ferrigno.
I didn't know that. I think I knew that.
Did anyone make him mad?
No, but my thing was when he's in the huddle, it just there's a bunch of guys huddling. I'm sure he was going, "What?"
He's deaf. If you don't know, he's deaf. I don't know if
hike, move.
He has he's 80%
but it's just
lost
like
hearing.
Everybody's huddled, and we knew he was deaf. He'd already been an actor. He was already on that. Wasn't it? Hadn't he been an actor first, and then he went to the? Does anybody know stats there?
Was he the Hulk before then?
I think he was the Hulk, and then he was a Toronto Argonaut.
I'm not quite sure. I think he was an Argonaut first, and then he was the Hulk. I want to say that just because.
See, Ross, now this is why we should not have eliminated the Hulk. Because we could have talked with Howie Mandel about Lou Ferrigno. All right, we'll talk about that later. We'll explain that later, Howie. That made no sense to you. I apologize.
I loved in Canada going to the games, and the worse the weather, the more I loved it. There was something about sitting at a football game during a blizzard. The Dolphins fans wouldn't know that, but there, or even the people here in LA with the Rams, but sitting in a just wrapped up in blankets.
I mean, again, the CFL gave us Warren Moon. They gave us Doug Flutie came out of there. I mean, there's been many great quarterbacks and athletes to come out of the CFL.
But they're Americans. They were people that didn't.
Oh, yeah, Americans, but still, I mean, without CFL, Warren Moon would never get his chance in the NFL.
There's some good Canadian NBA players too.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, for sure.
There's a lot
of.
Were
you excited when the Raptors? Were you excited when the Raptors won, or was that not a big?
Anything that makes Drake happy makes me happy.
Or the guy with the turban. The guy with the turban I like that sits in the front row. I like that.
I saw him. But like Drake is like he owns the team. He's on the floor. Do you watch him?
I watch him. He's a little obnoxious for me. He talks too much, but that's me.
So he's like the Spike Lee for New York. He's like that for Toronto.
Howie, there's a story I want you to tell. I was one of the producers of Hollywood Medium for E! A couple years ago. I had you on with Tyler Henry. He did a reading with you, and he talked about the day that your dad had, your mom had the shiva at the house. And I wanted you to tell the audience.
For those that I don't know if you have a strictly Jewish audience here, but
we're 99% Jews.
You got a Jewish doctor. Yeah.
Well, that's unusual. That's unusual right away.
The entire MFSN group is Jewish. I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
I think so. It's really weird.
Some of the portion of the audience, the shiva is just an extra on how you stab somebody. Give me the shiva.
Exactly. They think of it as a shiv, but a shiva comes after the shiv.
So or Canadians, it's a shiv, eh?
Okay,
but
so
anyway, the shiva is, I've got just to explain I'm sure you got a listener that is not a Jew. But the point is that the shiva is the wake after you bury somebody, then you go back to the house and kind of try to comfort the family that has the loss. So I am at the lowest point in my life where I've just buried my father. And as I was saying to you before we came on the air, Ross, the boss, I was saying that some of the funniest, Ross, the big boss, okay. I was saying that some of the funniest things that have happened or that I've been able to reiterate come from the darkest points in people's lives. And that's what comedy is. And I think that's why when you look at those two symbols of theater, comedy and tragedy, they're very close. So I was devastated, and I'm in the house in my mom's, in the apartment, and this guy comes in, and I was living in LA at the time. So I flew in for the funeral. And this guy comes and he says, I'm a friend of your father. Sorry for your loss. And I'm like, in between tears and everything. And he starts telling me a story about my father. And as he's telling me, he goes, whoa, like that. And he starts to run to leave. He's running out of the apartment mid-sentence. And it was just strange. And I'm looking, where's he going? And as he's running, his hands are kind of in his pocket. And I think he dropped the candy. So I get up. And I'm going, sir, you dropped. And I go, I think like one of those caramel things. So I go and I pick up the caramel that he dropped on my mom's carpet, and my fingers sink into this caramel. And then I pick it up and I'm thinking, no, this can't be what I think it is. And I take a smell of it. I put it near my face, and it is. It's shit. It's a piece of shit. The man shit. It came out of his pant leg. That's why he laughed. It turns out later, I found that he has a Crohn's or a colitis. And he had an attack right there. He's very upset,
God.
But he shit. I didn't know that. I picked it up. It's on my fingers. As we had talked about, I don't think you have to be a germaphobe to react the way I did, but I am a germaphobe. I pick it up, I smell it, and I start screaming like a 5-year-old little girl. And I'm just screaming, oh, oh, oh. And my mom comes over and says, what's wrong? And I go, she goes, what is it? And she smells it. She starts screaming. My mom and me are screaming. She grabs my hand. She goes over to the table. She grabs all like the alcohol, whatever, the schnapps and everything. She's pouring alcohol over my hand. We're both screaming. My brother, who is in the other room with all the guests, says everybody's just got their hands on their hearts and thinking, the mother and son are just in the other room wailing about the loss of my father. They have no idea that I got shit on my fingers, and that's why we're all screaming. But when you think about that, I thought this was a sign from my father. This is something my father would have sent me to make sure to let me know that everything's okay. But there were so many stories there. There was one, because my parents lived in a building, and there was a lot of other Jewish families in the building. At the same shiva, I'm sitting there, and a guy comes up and he goes, he doesn't know me. He goes, you're the son, aren't you? And I go, yes. He goes, your father was a great man. And I go, thank you so much. He was wonderful. Everybody loved listening to him and just being with him. And I go, I know, I get it. I thank you so much. He goes, and what a beautiful voice on the mountains in Acapulco when he used to sing on the mountains in Acapulco. And I start going, my father, I don't know that my father was ever in Acapulco. And I know that he didn't sing. And I go, when did my dad sing in Acapulco? And he looks down at me and he says, is this the Goldstein Shiva? And I said, no, it was one floor down. There's a lot of Jewish families in this building, and I guess it was a bad week for that building. But he was at the wrong Shiva, reminiscing with the wrong guy. But I will miss that neighbor dearly who used to sing beautifully in Acapulco.
Howie, I feel bad about the circumstances on the story, but it's such a great talk show story. I just wanted to hear it one more time. Quick prediction, Dodgers are playing Tampa Bay in the World Series. I know you're not a huge baseball guy, but I can get your prediction on it. Who do you like?
Well, I'm living in LA, and I think I got to support the home team. But to be honest, I think that Tampa Bay is going to take it. I want the Dodgers to take it, but I think Tampa Bay is going to take it. We've been here too many times. This is what they do. This is the path. I don't know why we're so excited that we're in the World Series. We've been in the World Series the last 4 out of 5
years. It's
been
painful.
It's not. Pardon me.
It's been painful. I mean, I'm a Cleveland fan, so I'm across Lake Erie from where you grew up, but we went through a lot of pain.
I love you tell me who you're a fan of, and you're like a built-in GPS, too. I have to know exactly where Cleveland is.
Been to Cleveland.
You're not a Cleveland football, do you like? Is there anything to like there?
No. Well, this season's better, but my joke has been when people ask me if I like the Browns, I'm like, I don't really like semi-pro ball, which I've actually even said on this show already. So my act is growing stale. But yeah, the Browns. Ask Ross when we talk about the Browns. I predict
the last
devastation.
Live game I was ever at was the Browns in Cleveland.
Against who?
I'm trying to remember. It was I haven't been to a live game in years. It was probably about 5-6 years ago, and I'm trying to remember who.
Oh, so if it was since '99, it was miserable for us.
Oh, it was miserable, but it was, just that I'm telling you, it was a feeling. It was a day. I was playing Cleveland that night doing stand-up comedy, and they said it was like a Sunday afternoon, and I had gotten in Saturday night, and they said there's a game, and it was already at the end of the first quarter, and I went down. And I showed them my face. They recognized me, and I was vertical, not even horizontal, like you guys are making me for this Zoom or whatever I'm on. And the guy recognized me, and he let me into the game, and I just sat there in the snowstorm and watched. They didn't win. I'm trying to remember who they played.
No, listen,
I'm sure
if you
they
like comedy, if you like comedy, you'll like the Browns.
No, it's a loser. It's just a loser. A proposition. The Browns they're not going to win any games. They're lucky to win.
We've never even been to the Super Bowl.
Are you a lover or a hater of LeBron?
I love LeBron. I had a hard time with him when he left. The way he left the first time, but the way he came back, the second time, I embraced him. It made it sweeter, but I was totally rooting for him with the Lakers. I never thought I would root for the Lakers as a Cleveland fan, but I'm all about LeBron. I love the guy. He's a really good guy from what I can tell.
I think so. And even that misjudgment of how he left, he was trying to do it in a nice way. You're talking about that. He had that where he was going to make the announcement, but wasn't he raising money? Wasn't that a way of raising money?
It was for like,
that school there. He built a school there.
It was for the high school that he actually paid.
I thought it was for the boys' club or something. But yeah,
Cleveland.
LeBron always meant well. And that's true. And LeBron always went well, and he's always given back. But honestly, a guy who wins a championship for Cleveland, how am I not going to like that guy? There are some people who are like, I need another championship. I'm like, I don't need anything ever again. It was as good as I thought it would be. I don't need to win.
And I threw out, speaking of fans of people, I'm also the Raptors, everything from Toronto, but I threw out the Blue Jays the first win in Skydome. The first win against the Milwaukee Brewers, the first time they ever played in Skydome, I threw out the first pitch.
You did. Do you remember?
Oh my God! And
Milwaukee Brewers.
Oh, yeah.
Do I remember who the pitcher was?
No.
I grew up watching Joe Carter, and when he hit that homer to win the World Series, he was my childhood hero, and I saw him win the World Series.
Do you know when we opened the Skydome in Toronto? Do you know what made that really famous in the first game that was televised from the Skydome?
What?
So the Skydome, I guess your fans will know.
Was it a guy with shit on his hands?
No. Was it the hotel story?
That's it. You got it.
Oh, the hotel story. That's right.
tell the audience.
They built a hotel. It was the first time that they had. I think we were the first in North America retractable stadium with the roof could close or open. And they built. We were so exciting. I was living in Toronto at the time. And they built. Now it's called the Hard Rock Hotel, but before that, it wasn't the Hard Rock. The hotel is in there, and there's nightclubs, and it's kind of like what they're building. I haven't been down to see what they're doing here for the Rams, at that stadium, but it was like the state-of-the-art stadium, and you can. Besides buying tickets and going to the stadium to sit in the game, you could get a hotel room, and certain rooms overlook the field
and do things there.
Well, it was an international broadcast, Canada, the United States, of a game, and some guy I think he was watching the game because his date's or wife or whoever his roommate's ass was pressed against the window, and. He was having a home run while he was watching over her shoulder a single.
And that guy is Dr. Dan Ratner.
The camera, and you could see it, and they went, "Whoa!" And I heard the whoa, and there was no play that matched that hit or anything. And then they described it, and I went back and I looked at it. It's a famous little.
Ross says it was me. Story. I would have been 17 then, so that's pretty damn good, I have to say, for a 17.
You should look it up. I wonder if it's still on tape somewhere. Well, you have a producer there. Maybe they'll roll in and
they'll find it. I do remember that because it was pretty.
That's pretty good, Ross. You are the boss for you to remember that. Because
I know everything about it.
It's my hometown.
It is your hometown. Howie, thanks for coming on today. We're excited about having you on. You're one of my favorite guests, as you know, and also Monster Madness, too. We're excited about that, too. So, Howie, thank you for coming on. I'm Ross the Boss, and I love talking sports with you, cowboy.
Lying with a blanket over my head, she asked if she could see who was under the blanket with me. I said, you don't want to find. It is Hideki Matsui in my